Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a Leopold reverse list that I made. With the help of a lot of people, I really enjoy this deck. It's probably currently my favorite V deck. Maybe Hamskay is up there too. I definitely enjoy Great Nature the most. Right now in V, this deck is really aggressive, but I got some new spicy tools with the sheep promo that we'll go over during our list. We'll do the card for card. Let's just get right into it and see what every card does one by one. I sorted them out by grade, so it's easy to go over. We'll start, of course, you'll want to run a starter. Every deck needs a starter, right? Then for the trigger lineup, 8 fronts, playing 4 drop PGs and 4 heals, the standard ratios for any deck really. I tried with Sentinel crits, sometimes worked, but more than often not, it actually lost me games, weirdly enough, because there were times when if I had a PG in hand instead of a 30k shield, I actually would have won the game. So that was why I decided to jump back on drop PGs. Next up for the grade 1 lineup. Probably the most important grade 1 for you to find in the late game, really. So when you place this card on your Rigard circle, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can mill a card, and depending on the type, whether it's a normal or trigger unit, use soul charge or counter charge. Actually, most of the time you just counter charge with this, because with your boss unit, you can basically just decide that, hey, I'll always mill a trigger unit. As with Leopold reverses his own skill, he lets you, when you mill, just mill every type, even if you don't. So this is pretty much just your counter charger. But above that, it actually also mills your card, which is relevant for some other effects that we'll go over later. This is a really important piece, that's why we're playing it at 4, 100% of 4-0. Next up is Mini Belly, very important in this deck as well, because it searches your grade 3s, and this deck, it basically lives or dies by whether or not it finds its grade 3 cards. If you don't find 2 Leopolds by turn 3, it's going to be a very hard-won battle. Then for the last 2 slots in the grade 1, we're playing 2 Scale Toucans, which says on place from hand, so less 1, to bounce 1 card back to the hand. And then on the rear guard or Vanguard circle, if you've milled a card this turn, it gets +5. I want to play 3, honestly, but I feel like the grade 2 options are more important. I might come back on this, to be honest, as I'm not sure yet if 10 grade 1s are enough. So feel free to experiment with this. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. Why is this important? Mainly because this deck can go through a lot of CB, so usually you just bounce the lemur, deflated lemur, to get more counter charging off and also more milling. As this is one of the cards that actually gives you payoff for milling, it gives you +5 even though it's once per turn. It's still a 13k booster, which is quite relevant because it will make your Vanguard attack 30k with 2 crit, which is quite a lot more scary than 17k with 2 crit. Next up I'll go over the grade 2s. Here we go, the new card, and the card I think this deck has now become a lot better. It's Sleep Learn Jumpback, the Sheep. It's your ordinary, like from hand, you can discard it if you're grade 1 or less to search for a grade 2 or less, so it'll help you find your pieces more often, which is also quite important as this deck. It's, once you get to grade 3 and you establish a board, it's not piece reliant, but until you get to there, getting the right pieces is quite important, as again you'll need these grade 3 Leopolds. If you don't find them, you'll be struggling quite a bit. I've been there often, and honestly this is a great consistency tool, so you definitely want to run it at 3. And the other skill on boost, you soul +1 to mill a card, so there we go, once again milling cards. Depending on the type, you gotta give 2 units +5, or, and this is the where the control aspect of this deck now can come in, because I retire 2 units, which is crazy. I didn't expect it to be as good as it is, but testing it with the other boys, it's quite insane to just say, I'm gonna pop this problem card and this problem card, and all the other cards don't matter, so you can just keep them. It's really good. So I started running it at 4 copies. Next up is we're running 3 copies of the Binoculus Tiger. We're cutting this down a little bit because of the sheep now. He has a very similar effect, so when it attacks, the only difference is this is when it attacks, this needs a booster. So this can actually be placed on an Excel circle, which is why you could argue that this card is actually better in some ways. However, the sheep costs a Soul Blast, while this costs a Counter Blast. And sometimes you're really low on Counter Blast while you're sitting there with 4 soul and don't know what to do with it, so that's why I think the sheep is quite a bit better. Anyway, so it has the same mill effect. When you trigger the normal unit to draw a card, The trig unit is you get to retire one of your opponent's rear guards, and then give 3 of your front row +5. So big difference is that it says front row, so you can't actually just give its own column like +10 for example if you're boosting, or like give a back row +5, which with the sheep you actually can. So it's pretty relevant when you have to hit over defensives. Next up, another consistency card is playing 3 Blusher Parakeets. So Vanguard Circle, Rigor Circle on place, you get the Counterblast 1, and then look at top 7 of your deck. If you find a grade 3, you can add it to your hand, no discards costs like some other cards like the grade 1 grade 3 Searcher. That's why it's really good. And he gets +3. And then if it's on Rearguard Circle, you have to retire it to the end of turn. That's the only sad part. However, if we can find this and ride it on grade 2, we're actually getting the best case scenario, as we don't need to retire it, but when going second, especially against force decks, right, you actually hit over without a booster because you're 12k base, which is really, really good. So yeah, this is ideal grade 2 ride for this deck, and it's also the reason why you would want to take damage on a grade 1. Next up, part of the Tester Fox, Researcher Fox engine. This is a great card, but I'm considering putting it back at 2, and I'm playing one more of the grade 1 we talked about earlier, so that's like the only ratio I'm not sure of, but for now we're playing it at 3 because we really don't want to see both go to damage. This is a crucial part of this deck, the Researcher Fox, Tester Fox engine. So what does he do when he's on additional Rigor Circle? He gets +5 every time you mill a card. And that's not once per turn. So all those mill effects we just went over, well, this guy just keeps growing in power every time you mill. This will be your biggest swing every time, 100%. And then at the end of turn, if he's retired by your card ability, you can counterblast 1 to search a copy of your Vanguard. So you can actually get a rewrite to get more Excel circles. You don't often use this, unless you have like a lot of counterblast, which usually means you open all of lemurs. But it's definitely a good piece to have and great consistency fixer for, well, not consistency fixer, it's good for getting that turn 4 insane pressure value off of rewriting. Because if you rewrite, you'll have 4 Excel markers on turn 4, and that's a lot. So that's really good. Alright, now let's go over the grade 3s of the deck. First up, we have the man himself, Leopold Reverse. I got this SP with the boys when opening our splits. I'm very happy to have it. It's a fonded memory of mine that we got this. Looks amazing, the artwork. So what does Leopold Reverse do? So I've said it multiple times in this video, but you need to open 2 Leopolds by turn 3. Or else this deck doesn't do much. Now why is that? Now the first skill of Leopold says you have to lock a Leopold's rearguard, and until the end of turn all the cards that you mill become normal, trigger, and order cards. Okay, cool, so now we can choose which effects we get from the multiple choice effects. Awesome. And Leopold's second skill allows us to counterblast 1, discard the top card of our deck, and then perform all of the following effects, depending on what type we milled. That's amazing. That's the part that makes this deck really, really strong. We get all of Leopold's effects when we lock a card. And it's also why we really need that locked Leopold. So what are the effects? Well, first off, your front row gets +5, which really helps you hit over those force numbers. Insane value. Second off, the Vanguard gets a crit, which is why I really like calling the 13k booster behind Vanguard, which we also run 2 of them, Mini Belly and the Toucan. This allows to swing for 30k with a crit on Vanguard. Basically asking our opponents like, hey, you have a PG, bro? Like, if you don't, you're gonna suffer for it, because we're playing fronts. We don't need to decide on like where we put the power. It'll always be on Vanguard. Second part of this is that you can check top 5 and call 2 units from the top 5, with just a free +2 is always good. You know, it helps you build a field, helps you really pressure down your opponent, and helps you not commit a lot from hand. Then the third part is when you mill the order. We don't play orders in this deck, so that's, again, I hate to say that, I hate to repeat myself, but getting that Leopold is the most important part of this deck, because if you mill an order card, you get an extra XL marker. Not only do you get the free draw from XL2, you also get another circle then to call 2 with your top 5 checks. You get another circle to place your grade 2 Fox, the Researcher Fox that we went over, because he only gets a +5 when something's milled when he's on an additional rearguard circle. So that's really important. And all in all, it's just an insane amount of value, because that's That's the reason that we're playing fronts, because we can build a front row so big so quickly. Next up, we have to play 3 Leopolds, the original. I don't like it, but you have to, because you need more Leopold names to be able to lock. And only running the 4 Leopolds is very extremely bricky. So what does he do? If you have a grade 3 in Soul, your auto abilities trigger twice. Well, this unit's auto abilities triggers twice. And then, when placed, you put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and deciding on which effect you get to do something. So same thing as always, just a casino great nature effect. As a normal unit, you check top 4, go up to 2 great, 2 or less cards from among them, and shuffle your deck. So basically what reverse does, but worse. And the second effect is this unit gets plus 15 and plus 1 crit. So again, it's half of what reverse does, but more power to himself. You don't want to write this ever. It's literally just there as lock fodder. So yeah, it's also like one of the bigger beaters I guess in the deck, because it's a 12k, 17k on XL, which makes it 22k. Because of the Leopold buff. Just against XL decks it's really good, but against Force decks it's a lot less. So yeah, we just need to run this card just for the namesake pretty much. Then last but not least, we're running 3 Tester Fox to complete the Tester and Researcher Fox engine. And why is this a little engine? It's a retrain of the old Legion. So when the machine is placed on Vanguard or Rigor Circle, counterblast 1, put 2 cards from drop to the bottoms. That's where the Legion parts of the skill comes in, right? If you put a normal unit and a trigger unit back, you get to search the Great True Fox from your deck. And he gives himself plus 5. That's insane. Not only are we putting back a trigger, we're also getting a free body out of it. That's really strong. Then, what makes this engine actually really good is the second skill of him, where you can Soul Blast 1, choose a rear guard, give it plus 10. And if it is the Researcher Fox, we get to, at the end of turn, retire it to draw a card. But if you remember, Researcher Fox himself says, at the end of turn, if it's retired, counterblast 1, search a copy of your Vanguard. So this is pretty much how we'll trigger that part of the skill, and like how they synergize really well with each other. Of course, if you play them in like another Great Nature deck like Big Belly, you'll get more draws off of it, because Big Belly just says, yeah, when something's retired, you draw. It's really good there too. It's really good in Isabel too. It's especially good in Leopold, because Leopold says every card you mill counts as every type of card. So let's say we mill a trigger unit with this. Technically in our drop zone it still counts as a normal unit. So what we can do is, with our Fox, because he says we need to put back a normal and a trigger unit, right? We just put back the trigger that counts as a normal unit and another trigger. So we can Legion back 2 triggers and still get the Researcher Fox from deck. Which is, you know, putting back true fronts or like 2 heals it's really good, because you also decked in a lot, as with your top 5 checks, you'll get a bunch of value off of it, and you'll just really get the engine going. This deck is really good near the end of the game, because you'll still have a high consistency of triggers in your deck, because you just keep putting them back. You keep tinning your deck by calling out units that are not trigger units. Both with calling the Researcher Fox, checking top 5 here, putting triggers back, searching out grade 3s with the grade 1 or the grade 2 searcher. All in all, it's a really good filter deck that somehow still checks 2 blanks every drive check. That's not true, but it just sometimes feels like it. I'll go over a basic Leopold grade 3 turn and give you like a rundown of how I usually order my plays. Alright, we're back with the combo guide. Starting off by just writing our Leopold grade 3, getting the XL2, drawing a card. I'm gonna assume that we got 2 damage for this case. Used one of them on the grade 2 Parkeet on Ride Up to find our Leopold. There's a couple lines, but every time you're gonna start with calling your Leopold to a side column and locking it. This will turn your Leopold effect online and give you all the mill effects, all the types, everything. It's really good. I'm gonna assume, just for this case, that we guarded with a trigger unit from our hand in our early game. Because we want to do that. We want to get a trigger and a normal unit in our drop zone by turn 3 ideally. So that actually is playing in our favor, especially going second, because that's like, yeah, we actually plus off of guarding. So that's perfect. Now why do we want to do this? For Tester Fox, I'm going to call him to rear guard. Counterblast 1. I'm going to put these two back to deck. And then, because we put it normal and trigger, we get to call Researcher Fox. So we're going to call him here. I'm going to give the deck a quick shuffle. I'm going to worry about it too much. Then we look at our hand and we're like, well, what's next? We don't have any open counterblast for our Vanguard skill, so we need to do something. Well, first off, I'm going to call down our Lemur to mill that part of our deck. Because of our Vanguard effect, we can basically choose which effects, in this case we're going to countercharge. And now we have once again counterblast to perform our future combos. So because the card was milled, we're actually going to be giving +5 to the Researcher Fox. I'm going to put it here to make it really clear. So we'll be doing a bit more milling soon. Next up we're going to use our Vanguard skill, counterblast 1, mill a card. Beautiful. If we had waited, in this case, with using Tester Fox, we're actually going to put back 2 triggers, because these both count as normal units too, so we can just put these 2 back and get a Tester Fox. Fun little trick. So, first of all, you're always going to want to get the Axle 2 marker to draw a card. We actually drew the perfect card in this case, because we can bounce stuff. It's really good. Then we're going to check top 5, and we're going to see what we get. That's actually pretty perfect for our case. I think we're only going to call 1 in this situation. Give it like another shuffle. Just doing quick shuffles just to make this go faster. Alright, now we take a look at our hand again and we think, yeah, this is a perfect hand. What we're going to do here, because I'm going to call it 2 count. I'm going to play Soul Blast 1 to put the Lemur back in hand. And what we're going to do then is just call the Lemur again. Mill another card. Countercharge. At this point, Tester Fox already seen 3 mills, so he has +15. Now this guy has seen a mill, so he gets +5. And don't forget, your Vanguard, Leopold, also gives +5 to your front. Not only that, but now this Tester Fox is +5. Researcher Fox, sorry. So they just keep growing in power, and we just keep extending further and further into greater strength. Last up, we're going to call our greatest card, our Sheep. Here. Why do we want to call it here? Because it needs to be boosted. Very simple, right? Yeah, this is a perfect board setup. Only thing that might have been better is if we had Binocular Tiger, because we have an open CB. But honestly, it's okay. We don't need him in this case. I think we're quite good. Yeah, so you'd swing Vanguard first, 100%. You always want to swing Vanguard first. You do your drive checks. Usually people PG this attack. No triggers. As I said, you mill so many cards and you decked in so much and you'll still double blank. A little satire, of course. Oh, I actually forgot a skill in main phase. You'd want to Soul Blast 1 to give a Researcher Fox +10. Let's give it here so the same number. It's really good, right? And if end of turn it retires itself, we can actually use that open CB to search a copy of our Vanguard, so we can guarantee a rewrite next turn. Really good. He would also have +5, but I ran out of +5. Yeah, I just ran out. So this would attack for 22, which is really good if you're going first or against XL clans, because it hits over defensive. Then you'd attack with the Sheep. You'd Soul Blast 1. So actually, nowadays you can actually use up our soul, which is something this deck couldn't do before. Mill another card, so you know what that means. We're gonna get some more power. Let's actually put this here and give +20 to that thing. He'll attack for 22. This will attack for 22. So then you have your 22 swings, which all hit over defense going first. So again, this deck is really strong going first. The big boys are gonna swing. They'll both swing for 39 in this case, which is a massive number. This many attacks that you have. Then at the end of turn, I'm gonna retire one of your foxes. Draw a card. Use your skill, counterblast 1. Search a copy of your Vanguard out of your deck, and then you pass your turn on that. Usually, if you're going first, you'll end on like a 10 plus card hand. If you're going second, it kind of depends how much pressure your opponent puts on you. All in all, this is a really good and strong pressure turn, especially if you check a front. Like, checking a front to getting essentially plus 50k power off of it is quite strong. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my first video making here on the channel, and also the Leopold reverse deck profile. Again, it's a really fun deck to play. Sometimes it can just brick and you just sit there and question your life choices, but at other times you're so overwhelming in the things that you do, especially if you go first, but even when you go second, sometimes you can just turn the tide so quickly with all the advantage and pressure that you generate once you get to a great tree. You just really enjoy and have a good time. So guys, really hope you enjoyed it, and have a good one. I'll see you next time. Take care.